All right. So today's hero of the day, another popular hero that I see a lot of people pick crazy talents on sometimes, is actually going to be Jaina. So we're going to talk about Jaina. A lot of the things that probably
Greetings, friend.
are pretty common, but then there's times where it kind of strays away from what you need. Here's how Jaina works, right? Jaina is one of the highest burst damage heroes in the game. She has phenomenal damage. She has incredible wave clear. There's a lot of different things that Jaina can do,
Well, if
but I
you're
feel like a
going to
lot of
do
people aren't
anything,
necessarily getting the value out of it. So, your Q, your W, and your E, they're pretty self explanatory. Your trait, just doing damage to people that are already chilled means that you get bonus damage to them. So you get 50% bonus damage. That's where her burst damage comes in. Now, when it comes to the build, it's pretty standard for a lot of people at level 1, even at level 4, but there are going to be times where you can kind of stray away from it. Current meta and pretty much almost every meta, Fingers of Frost is good. The mana regeneration is really, really good for you. More importantly, you get more burst damage. The damage bonus from Frostbite is increased by 10%. So now all of a sudden you get more burst damage plus you have mana regen. Now, with all this, you have enough burst damage, and we're going to talk about ways that you can maneuver with Jaina to maybe do more damage as opposed to some of the other builds that you've seen, and try and find some ways to say, you know what, I can have a lasting impact on a fight pretty easily. I can clear camps well, and all of a sudden Jaina goes from burst damage hero to incredible sustain at the same time, albeit if you hit some skill shots. Um, there's very few times you ever want to go Winter's Reach. Now, if you go Winter's Reach, getting the extra range on Frostbolt is nice. If you're playing against Sergeant Hammer, whenever she's been in the meta, this has always been good. The hard part with this is that you need a Malfurion on your team so you can get Innervate, because now all of a sudden you don't have mana regen. And Arcane Intellect is not exactly the talent you want to pick up. And even if you did pick it up, you're still trying to hit a long range target, but you're also trying to chill a close range target to get auto attacks and get Arcane Intellect, so the synergy is not really there. And it does make it a little bit difficult. And so if you are playing Winter's Reach, it's normally in a coordinated environment to where you have a Malfurion on your team. Using this means you're probably going to run out of mana. Your damage might look nice because you're able to poke squishies or heroes a little bit easier. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're having the maximum value or impact that you're going to have. Lingering Chill, I only pick this if I'm memeing with auto attack build. Don't do it. It's the way to get auto attack. But Fingers of Frost, way to go here. The bonus damage plus the extra mana regen going to help you survive in a lot of fights. Now, here's where things, for some reason, start to stray for a lot of people. Frostbolt will now pierce the first target and hit an additional target behind them. This now all of a sudden makes it very easy to clear camps. This, more importantly, allows you to fight a lot easier later on with the talent synergy you're going to have. So getting the pierce on this means you can hit a lot of the front line. Now, mind you, you're getting slows from whenever you hit somebody with your abilities because you're getting the chill on them. That's really strong in team fights because it allows you to have some of that frontline control. When Garrosh was super meta, Jaina was one of the better counters because Jaina could just press a button, and now all of a sudden Garrosh has to make the decision: can I walk forward or do I have to use my Indomitable? And if you use your Indomitable and you're still able to get out of Garrosh's range, then all of a sudden Garrosh is now a liability and he's dead. And so, for all intents and purposes, Jaina is really good at controlling the front line, but more importantly, this adds up to sustain and different things that go on. Frostbolt's incredibly powerful here, and we'll talk about why as the synergies go on. Now, there is something to be said for Frost Armor. If you are going against an Illidan, if you're going against maybe, I don't want to say Valera because you're not even going to be able to press your buttons, but if you're going against an Illidan, if you're going against the Samuro, you can use Frost Armor. This will actually help you out a lot. To get 50 physical armor is going to help. It's going to reduce the damage, but enemies that attack Jaina are chilled, which also helps you as well to turn on them to do some burst damage. It's like, get off of me, I don't want you on me. I think these are rare circumstances where you should be picking Frost Armor. Maybe a Twin Blades variant, depending on what level you're at, will determine its popularity. Still, Frost Shards can be really good. If you have any type of protection from your team, Frost Armor might not be necessary. Illidan's one of the rare heroes that can kind of go over your team and get to you instantly, as opposed to having to flank like some of these other heroes, or Samuro, who can get to you as well. So I think Frost Armor can work against those heroes, but outside of that, probably not so much. Frost Shards is going to be picked up. Now, here's the biggest mistake that I still, for the life of me, cannot figure out how this became the go-to de facto talent. Ice Flows, for some reason, became the go-to pick. And I can't stress enough how bad this talent actually is compared to what you could be doing in this game. This is going to increase the width of Cone of Cold and cause each hero hit to get cooldown on this. This is a 3-second cooldown up to a maximum of 6 seconds. That's bad, okay? Even if you hit 2, you're going to get this down to 4 seconds. Now, think about Jaina. When you go into that close of range, because Cone of Cold is a very short range, when you go in there, you're now a liability. The only time you should really be going into that range is to apply chills and maybe move off, or to burst and kill somebody. Moving forward for the sake of getting cooldown reduction, you now become like this weird kind of sustain-y, kind of burst damage, but in between both type of hero. And a lot of people I like to pick this for sustain. And in reality, you could be doing a lot more. 220 damage is nice. Well, let's go back to Frostbolt because you're going Pierce. Now, this is something to where you can keep your chilled target up 100% with the Q build. So Ice Lance here, hitting a chilled target with Frostbolt reduces its cooldown by 1.5 seconds and restores its mana. So if you've ever played Jaina, you know that even if you go the Globe Talent at 1, you can run into mana issues. And that does make it difficult to say, hey, you know what? I can press E a lot. And for what it's worth, most of you probably aren't hitting 2 people. And if you think, oh, I can hit 2 people all the time, you're still wrong. Don't even get me started about Ice Fairy Wand. Don't pick this ever, by the way. Ice Flows is the one that I want to address because so many people pick this and they're missing out on lots and lots and lots and lots of damage. As long as you can hit a skill shot, your W is going to be there. I feel E is like the easier one, right? Like I get a bigger cone, so I'm going to get value out of it. But if you actually want to take your game to the next level, Ice Lance is where it's at. Nobody in their right mind at higher levels would ever pick any of these 2 talents because of what this does. This now gives you the best, sustain damage from Jaina. You get burst damage off of it. You can basically poke an entire hero out. As long as you hit your Q, there's nobody that can touch you, right? You just Q and Q and Q. 1.5 second cooldown on something that's 4 seconds. By the time you cast this, it's 2.5 seconds, a little bit of lag, 2 seconds, you're going to have this over and over and over again. We'll show this in try mode at the end of this, because the sustain from this talent alone allows you to do things that you can't do anywhere else. And again, we'll show this in try mode, the difference between them after. But Ice Lance allows you can dot a tank up, just hit him with a button and then just continue to press Q. If you're in a team fight late game, mind you, you're also getting the Pierce on this at level 4. So now you can hit multiple targets. As long as you hit one target, you're going to be hitting and keeping that applied, which means you're going to have really fast cooldown. Now, at level 10, a lot of people want to make the big Pog play. Ring of Frost, there is a combo you can run where you can Q, R, E, W, like all this stuff, Q, E, R, W, and get the full lockdown for yourself with an upgrade at 16. Ring of Frost is really appealing, but it's really hard to pull off. And what you want to be doing is Water Elemental. A lot of people don't realize a 60-second cooldown on a heroic means it's available for every team fight. Not only that, but this thing lasts for 20 seconds. So if you get the full duration out of this, you have a 40-second downtime on a heroic, which is really, really good, as opposed to an 80-second let's hope I hit somebody and my team follows up and I have all of my cooldowns available to try and burst somebody down, and they don't have cleanses and they don't have heals and they don't have all this stuff to protect people. The odds of you hitting more than 2 people is really hard. You got to be playing with some blind people, I guess, to try and hit multiple people. There are circumstances where it could work, but Summon Water Elemental on a 60-second cooldown is so good. This gives you this slow, right? That's the one thing about this. The Water Elemental's basic attack deals damage, but it splashes for 25% damage and it chills. Getting this chill here can help you set up a lot late game. You can retarget this on different ones. Getting the slow means that you can now start to apply your own damage on those targets. Getting the slow from this is one of the biggest upsides, and getting the chill on this really makes things easy. The ability can be reactivated to retarget the Water Elemental. So I can target one, make it a priority target. I want to apply that chill, and then I want to do my burst damage, which means now I'm getting burst damage from all 3 of my sources simultaneously, and they're having a hard time walking away because they're slowed. This is a little bit intimidating, I think, for a lot of people, because you do have to move it. You do have to make sure. If you're going against this and nobody on your team is killing it, you know what it's like to have a Water Elemental just constantly poking and poking you. If you take any bit of damage from Jaina, you're like, that really hurts, because you're chilled and you're taking that bonus damage, including the extra bonus damage from Fingers of Frost. Summon Water Elemental is just way too good to pass up in 99% of the cases, to where you want to be able to have an impact on a team fight. An immediate impact is Ring of Frost, and if you miss, you have no impact. Water Elemental means you have an impact on every single team fight because it's on a 60-second cooldown, and you can have a longer impact on a fight because you're going to be the one doing the burst damage. You're going to be the one doing the damage, and whatever comes out from you, along with 4 other teammates of yours, is going to be more than enough to present threats. Now, at level 13, if you're going increase blizzard cast range and radius, you're probably doing it wrong. If you've ever been against a Kael'thas, a Jaina, or an Asmodan, you know that when you see a big circle on the ground, your job is to walk out of it. And if you don't walk out of it, you know that you messed up. Now, assume you're of right mind and you say, you know what? I can actually see the circle on the ground. I'm going to walk out of it. The bigger circle, the odds of you hitting somebody twice, okay, good for you. The odds of what you could be doing in terms of that immediate damage is Icy Veins. Icy Veins means that your basic abilities are going to cool down 200% faster and reduce their mana cost, which means you can start spamming abilities. If you've gone the level 4-7 combo, which you should have done, you're going to have Q. This is oftentimes referred to as Machine Gun Jaina, to where you're going to press Q a lot, right? You can get your W, you can get your E out, you can get your Q. And all of a sudden, when they start taking 1 tick of Blizzard, 1 E, and now they're taking multiple Q after Q after Q, that's really scary. That's all of a sudden, we're taking thousands of damage within a couple of seconds from one hero, and that can be pretty intimidating for a lot of people. This helps you so much to be able to in a team fight. So once you get the water elemental out, you have any form of CC from your team or any type of lockdown, you can focus tanks. You can deal with tanks with Icy Veins. If anybody else steps up on that team, you have a blizzard, a zoning area, you have the E damage, you have your Q now, and this only is going to get better here when you get to 16. But Icy Veins is there. There is a rare time where I think Ice Barrier can be good, but it's highly circumstantial, right? If you know that it is just a full-on onslaught coming at you, a Kerrigan, a Kira, there's multiple ones, not just one of these, but multiple ones, and you need to be able to survive, Ice Barrier can be okay. It's about I pick this maybe 2% of the time. I personally almost never pick it, but Icy Veins, if I already have burst damage, now I want sustained damage and sustained burst damage at least for a period of time. So for 5 seconds, I'm going to get multiple forms of damage out. I'm going to have another blizzard before I know it. My E is going to be there. My Q is going to be there. Again, I'll show you in try mode the difference between these where it happens. Now 16, this is the big one. I used to love Northern Exposure. Don't go Snowstorm. This one's actually bad. Goes back to the point of you're going to walk out of that circle. Trust me. Lowering armor gives you the ability to kill somebody by getting 20% armor reduction on them, and that is appealing, especially if you go Ring of Frost, because look, I've got them locked, I've got them rooted, this is going to give me my damage. But at 16, this is Ring of Frost. Look, the odds of you hitting 3, 4, 5-man Ring of Frost are almost impossible. 3, maybe 4 and 5, good luck. You better have the sickest mosh pit ever. But Numbing Blast is your own personal Ring of Frost. If I can root one target, that becomes a liability. And now all of a sudden, I can QWE a target in the middle of all that. They're going to take double hits from the blizzard. They're going to be rooted for 1 second. And I'm going to absolutely blast a single target. Now go back to the point with Water Elemental. Your Water Elemental is also going to be trying to slow people down, makes them easier to hit. It's going to be able to help with the chill department, to be able to keep people in place. I cannot stress enough how strong this talent is. If I was adamant about the level 7 being a Q, I'm equally as adamant about Numbing Blast being here. Northern Exposure, again, one of those rare cases where you have infinite CC from your team, and now all of a sudden you can be a little bit greedier. If I have an ETC and an Imperious or ETC and a Blaze, and I know people are going to be locked in place for a couple of seconds, I can be greedy with this. But if I want to help follow up that CC, what's better than a 2-second stun, a 2-second stun, and a 1-second root? That's more than enough damage for me to get those blizzards out, and then I can get multiple Qs out. And if I've gone Icy Veins, they're not walking away. There's no chance they walk away. So with Numbing Blast, this is your Ring of Frost. You can go summon Water Elemental and go Numbing Blast, and you're going to be just fine. Everything else is incredibly greedy, and highly inconsistent. The one thing that you can control in a team fight is rooting somebody. Imagine a tank coming at you. Imagine a melee assassin coming at you. You hit them with a QE, and all of a sudden they're rooted in place. It allows you to walk away and then to turn to be able to do damage. It's a form of protection. It's a form of offense. It's a form of defense. Everything that you can ask for in a talent is right here in this. And I honestly don't know how you could possibly think that Snowstorm, you're going to get that, I'm going to get that 20% extra damage. You can get more damage by pressing W multiple times than you could hoping that somebody is dumb enough to stand in a blizzard 2 to 3 times. And if you are thinking, I'm going to have CC for days, then Northern Exposure is still going to be the way to go, because you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to lock these down. My job as a Jaina is to burst somebody down. I have the highest burst in the game. I need to kill them. That is my job. It is not my job to sit there and spray and pray with a W, go Ice Fury Wand, press W, poke from a mile away. There's no synergy there. There's no synergy. My job is to kill people. If I wanted a sustain hero, I'd pick a different hero. Level 20. Now, Wintermute, because you're going Water Elemental, it increases the cast range, which means it's much easier. You can cast this at range, and then it can also slow a target. So if somebody's running away from you, now all of a sudden they're slowed. And now you can catch up to them, and then your team can do damage. But the cast range of this allows you to maybe start to target backlines, maybe chase somebody down. It does many things, but it also is going to mimic your basic abilities. So when you're casting stuff, all of a sudden that burst damage becomes far more significant. It's applying chills. You're doing all the different things with Wintermute, and it's so good to be able to just say, you know what, level 20, I now have that increased cast range. Like, you catch somebody in rotation, your team is rotating down, somebody's in a lane, you're like, we can't catch them because they're already there, but you can put that Wintermute down a little bit further, and all of a sudden you're going to reach them. Appreciate it, Slex, yeah. And so now all of a sudden you're going to be there. Now, Ice Blink is a little bit different, right? This is not a traditional blink. It's a pretty short blink, but you're also going to chill targets. This is, despite it having a chill, if you go to 16, maybe you can blink onto somebody and then root them. That would be the play. But more it's going to be like, I don't want to get caught in whatever's coming at me. I'm going to blink away. Because it's so short, it is difficult. And if you go back to everything that we've been talking about with the build, you're going to have higher sustained damage. You're going to have higher burst damage. You're also going to have your own root. You're going to have different forms of protection and peel with your water elemental. So now all of a sudden, if I can root targets, I don't necessarily need the same type of defensive protection that I would have otherwise. And Wintermute's going to just allow me to stay there. For Jaina, it's all about positioning, right? If you step up too far and you're pressing E at level 7, and no matter how much you want to argue, this is better, it's not better. I promise you, you have to learn. If you hit a skill shot, I think that's why people are scared of this one at level 7, because it requires them to hit a skill shot. I feel like the Ice Lance is actually pretty generous in terms of its width. It's wider than, say, an Ana or a Snipe from Nova. So I think it's more generous and easier to hit. So I think these are situations where if you follow this build and adapt as needed with Frost Armor or Winter's Reach, which is very rare, but stick with the Q at 7, stick with Icy Veins, maybe go Ice Berry, but stick with Numbing Blast, you're going to find that your potential is much higher to be able to kill people. And then at level 20 with Wintermute, just allowing you to, again, stay in fights longer, be able to do more damage in that situation. There's so many good things about that. With Frostbolt, the other thing about this is your Cone of Cold on a 10 second, your Blizzard on a 15 second, and your Frostbolt on a 4 second. If my job is to hit skill shots, do I want to be more reliant on a 15 second cooldown? If you don't go Ice Fury Wand, do I want to be more reliant on a 15 second cooldown that if I don't hit, then I'm dead in the water, and I have 2 other abilities that can kind of hit? Do I want to be reliant on a 10-second cooldown, hope that I hit 2 people while also being in a very close range and getting 3 seconds off that to be a 7-second cooldown, 4 seconds if I'm lucky? All of these are not consistent. And one thing that you can get from Frostbolt is even if you miss, you're going to have it 4 seconds later. If you hit, you have it a couple seconds later, and you're going to have more damage as a result. And the consistency is the name of the game, is trying to play like these big brain IQ plays. It's too inconsistent. It's too difficult to hit those. A lot of things have to go right. And don't get me wrong, you've probably won a lot of games picking some of those other talents, but in reality, you could be doing more damage. You could have a higher impact on the game. You could be carrying harder. These are all things to where like everybody's like, well, it works for me and this is what everybody picks at my level, so why wouldn't I? And if you go to higher levels, you'll see that that's very different, that everything else people are picking is going to be very different. similar to the Kalthos build that I was talking about, which you can check out as well, is that you might think that that's good because that's what you see when people are playing at your level. But if you learn to play it at a higher level, you'll carry harder. You can have a 50%, 55% win rate with Kalthos. But what if at that level, all of a sudden your mechanics are a little better, your talents are a little better? That's a 60, 65% win rate, and you can start climbing. And that's what that's why these builds are so important. So those are things with Jaina that you really got to consider playing for Jaina is, yes, you are a burst damage hero, but you can also get some sustainability. You can get that consistency from this build in other ways instead of trying to find like these, ooh, but if, right? Like the whole reason you're picking that bigger E is if I hit 2 people. If you hit 1 person, it's a bad talent. You're talking about waiting for 7 seconds. If I hit this Ring of Frost, if I hit this Ring of Frost and I get this level 16 that reduces armor, if, then in reality, the one factor you can control is, are my skill shots good enough to hit? Are the cooldowns favorable? And if that answer is yes, and you're passing on those, you're missing out on a lot more damage and a lot more overall impact on the game.